I was introduced to Godzilla through the video game Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. Apart from being a fun game, I was fascinated by the world and its characters, a series of creatively designed monsters with unique powers, hucking lasers and fighting for Earth. It was like a superhero universe coked out its eyes. But as much as I like the idea and monsters of Godzilla, I've never really gotten into the movies, mainly because I could never find any of them. I'm one of the freaks who likes the 1998 American Godzilla as a stupid disaster movie. I kinda liked Godzilla 2014 because it had some good suspense and they adequately built up to an epic final battle. I would have really liked this year's King of the Monsters if the monster fights didn't suck and take place almost entirely off screen. I'm pretty sure this clip right here has more footage of Rodan fighting Ghidorah than King of the Monsters has when Rodan fights Ghidorah. I appreciate what Shin Godzilla was doing, it just could have stood to be about a half hour shorter for my taste. That said, I was watching the dubbed version, which I'm pretty sure is a grievous faux pas in any fandom of Japanese media.
The great crimson dragon came down from above and swept over the land, sealing the forces of evil deep beneath the earth. Like in the dirt.
Bottom line, I'm familiar with Godzilla, but I still need to see some of the actual Godzilla films, all of which is my background for today's review subject, Godzilla on the PlayStation 4. Godzilla is widely regarded as one of the worst AAA games on the console, and ironically, it's also become an expensive collector's item. Publisher Namco Bandai lost the Godzilla license not long after its release, which forced them to pull the game and stop printing discs. The English version sold like crap before production stopped, so now the game's rare and you'll be lucky to find this pile of ass for cheaper than $200. I lucked out and got to play the game for free because there's a copy in circulation among the terrors of the library! So this is just a funny note to me. The game's opening cutscene can't be recorded with the PS4 share functions because it plays Godzilla's theme and copyright law is retarded. Literally, less advanced in development than is usual for one's age. By dictionary definition, copyright law is retarded. The game begins with a tutorial in black and white, emulating the original Godzilla film, and they teach you the horrendous controls. Godzilla runs on tank controls and can't walk diagonally. R1 and L1 turn you in place, and you have to constantly man the camera yourself because the camera doesn't follow you at all, and Godzilla's humongous ass often blocks your view anyway. Godzilla can barely move, barely turn, and most of his attacks have a wind-up. Everything you do is so damn slow that the controls feel like garbage. You have one light and one heavy attack, but you're supposed to do a grab move if you press forward and heavy attack at the same time, and I'd guess that the grab only works about, 10% of the time, and sometimes it goes off even if you aren't touching the stick, so at complete random you'll try to use Godzilla's huge arcing tail whip ranged attack, only for him to grab at the air and do nothing or hump a nearby building. X does a charging attack that still doesn't feel like it gets you any speed. An energy meter charges in the corner that you can either use to fire the most pathetic atomic breath that you've ever seen, or you can use it to do an area effect roaring attack. The roaring attack is pretty much your only option for killing choppers and planes, because the tail whip has picky hit detection and Godzilla won't aim his atomic sneeze worth shit. You can also press both shoulder buttons to roar, which is supposed to soup up your attacks, but all it does is fire a single powered up breath weapon if you had a charge ready. It's kind of just on you to figure out that the game's full of shit on that. The game's main campaign, God of Destruction, cuts to the modern day as Japan has harvested Godzilla's G-cells from his initial invasion and turned them into a powerful energy source. But it turns out that G-cells are like honey-baked ham to Godzilla, so he comes back to trash Japan and eat all the G-cells he can find to increase his power. They try to claim that Godzilla is saving the environment or punishing mankind for not learning its lesson screwing with atomic energy, but it's never suggested that there's any actual problem with G-cells. You're just smashing Japan because Godzilla is a hangry asshole. Every level you spawn in a chunk of generic city. To finish each level you have to smash 2 or 3 generators and defeat an enemy kaiju. All you do, every level, is slowly walk around a city, mashing buttons to smash buildings, with no obstacles in your way. You're slow as crap and it takes several hits to kill generators, so this process feels as drawn-out, repetitive, boring, and monotonous as possible. You get attacked by military vehicles, but they barely scratch you and you have regenerating health. They may as well not exist. If you destroy more buildings, the game's disaster level will increase and spawn stronger military units, but even the most powerful enemies in the game don't do shit to you. For all intents and purposes, the vast majority of the game is walking through an empty map while nothing happens. I get the Japanese military's effectiveness against Godzilla is mimetically abysmal in the movies, but that's not an excuse to make a game that you can't lose. There are brief moments where it's fun to wreck buildings, but when that's all the game has you do for hours on end, it gets boring after 10 minutes. There are branching paths through the campaign and multiple levels to pick at every stage, but there's literally no difference between any two levels except for how quickly the disaster level rises. All the game's stages play exactly the damn same.
Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power.
Shut up!
The only time the game shakes you awake is when other kaiju from the Godzilla movies appear to fight, but the combat system sucks! Levels 2 through 4 I run into Mecha Godzilla, Larva Mothra, and Rodan, whose character model looks like actual garbage, and all three of them I just button mash to death with almost no resistance. Probably comes down to the fact my tail whip has way more range than any of their moves, and they keep flinching from my hits. But then in stage 5 I fight Mecha King Ghidorah, who mopped the floor with my scaly ass. Mecha Ghidorah has 2 breath attacks, neither has a wind up and one is damn near a one-shot kill. None of your attacks stun or stagger him, so you can't land a hit without getting punched back, and you're way too slow to dodge his attacks. Also, you can block attacks by roaring, but Godzilla's moves have so much lag to them that Ghidorah's hits land before the block goes off. He's only open to attack when he jumps in the air, but good luck hitting him in that brief window that he's airborne. I ended up running away from Ghidorah and slowly shooting him to death with that breath weapon that takes eons to charge because I couldn't find any other way to avoid taking a shitload of damage in rapid succession. And then Godzilla keeps shooting the damn ground because at times the game feels like vast chunks of it barely work. So all 4 monster fights thus far have been one-sided beatdowns. The combat is either wailing on a monster with minimal resistance or tiptoeing around a monster wearing him down with pot shots. Either way, the combat is slow, boring, irritating, and tedious. But after a very long battle of carefully picking my shots, I finally take down Mecha King Ghidorah. So who spawns in the next level? King Ghidorah!
Crap!
Level 7, you fight 2 ships called the Super X and the Super X2 that you can barely hit, but I'm not convinced can actually kill you. And then you win. Yeah, after about an hour or so, the game just cuts off, even though several stages are still blacked out on the map. The game barely has any gameplay, and they still couldn't be bothered to stretch out longer than 1 hour. That is pathetic! Once you've beaten a monster in the campaign, you can use them in God of Destruction's Invade or Defend modes. Defend mode has you protecting cities from other monsters, and it's kinda fun. Mainly because I'm playing Mecha King Ghidorah, and Mecha King Ghidorah doesn't suck! His attacks are faster and stronger, he's got a leaping charge aerial attack that lands several hits, and he's resistant to being stunned. He just steamrolls over the entire campaign! The Invade mode is just the same boring, slow-ass Smash Generators campaign as before. Playing as someone who sucks less than Godzilla doesn't make it any less soul-suckingly tedious. The game's monster models were made by Bandai Tamashii Nations, a division that makes high-quality action figures. I bring this up because I keep noticing lines along King Ghidorah's body where an action figure's articulation would be added, and it's driving me nuts! You can level up your monsters, but apart from giving Godzilla a few new attacks of dubious usefulness, all the upgrades do is boost that monster's energy meter. You buy upgrades with points obtained by beating the campaign as the monster in question, and beating the campaign lets you afford about 1 upgrade. So welcome to the endless grind that's meant to keep you playing the game more than once. But that's not all. To buy upgrades, you also need parts from beating very specific monsters in the campaign. I need adult Mothra DNA, but I've played the campaign 3 times and I haven't run into her, so what gives? Oh, never mind, I found her. Now we're in business. Cripes, Ghidorah has a long flinching animation. Anytime you feel like cutting that shit out now! What am I supposed to do? Mothra's already launching a new attack while I'm still flinching from the last one, and she keeps spamming the same move! For crap's sake, throw a punch! What the hell just happened? Okay, Every time you destroy something in the campaign, your monster increases a few centimeters in height. The larger your monster's height, the more damage they dish out, and the more resistant they become to flinching. The kaiju that spawns in every level will always scale to your size for an even fight, so your height doesn't even really matter. Except every now and then, at complete friggin' random, the game will spawn a monster that's maxed out at 100 meters tall and buffed to where every slight touch badly stuns you. 100-meter monsters completely butcher you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Then, once you get your ass kicked and retry the level, a properly balanced monster will take their place, and the game goes on like normal. So the only point to the entire height system is because some jackass programmer thought it'd be the funniest damn thing to spawn a catastrophically overpowered monster every now and then to cave your face in out of spite, wasting your time and forcing you to replay levels. There is literally no reason for this but to piss you off. The Defend and Invade modes don't have endings. You just fight Burning Godzilla and then it cuts off. And Burning Godzilla looks like shit. They just painted vanilla Godzilla orange. And that's pretty much it for gameplay modes. Evolution mode is where you buy upgrades, Diorama mode just lets you pose static models, and the Kaiju Guide is a wiki on Godzilla monsters. The only other gameplay mode is King of Kaiju, which is a series of 6 one-on-one monster battles, and next to no reward for playing it. The monsters are abysmally balanced, so it'll never be a fair fight. The combat system is so limited and restrictive with so few command inputs, there's next to no strategy to combat. The controls are such garbage, there's no real maneuvering around enemies, and the AI is dumb as soup. The AI just walks straight towards you, blocks at random, and often it spams whatever its best attack is. Y'all didn't make a fighting game, and trying to pretend that you did with online multiplayer and a shitty-ass tournament mode is just sad. That said, I don't know what the hell kind of a game you did make. Just to recap, this $60 full-price AAA game has 1 hour of content. The entire game is 1 hour of walking through empty maps that has no story, plus throw in a tournament fighter with barely any mechanics, shit balancing, and moronic AI. And to get your money's worth, you're just expected to replay this 1 hour endlessly. There is literally no reason to play this more than once other than to level grind monsters, which there is literally no reason to do unless you give a shit about the online multiplayer. 1 hour of content in a $60 game? Oh, sorry, now a $200 game? What the hell is wrong with you? Every level in the story campaign has 4 points where you can stand, press R3, and it cuts to some dope filming Godzilla on their phone. You unlock the campaign's ending by playing the story mode multiple times, choosing different levels, and hitting as many data collection points as you can. How telling is it about the sheer lack of gameplay that the one side quest in the entire game is just walking around the map slightly more than usual? Luckily, the game only requires you to hit about half the data points, and it only took me about 3 runs to get it, but you can only make progress on this quest as vanilla Godzilla. Runs as other monsters don't do squat. Plus, I kept running into shit spawn 100-meter monsters and getting my ass kicked trying to get these damn data points. It doesn't matter how good you are at the game, if you run into a giant, you're just dead! Also, Batra can rot in hell! Even shrunk to normal size, Batra has a stun-locking combo that he just spams endlessly. Ditto for adult Mothra, and to an extent Larva Batra. You stagger for about an hour after every hit. Even if you get a chance to recover, your block takes several seconds to work. Why is Godzilla so damn useless? King of the Monsters my ass! And before you bring it up, I know that people are going to compare this game to Shadow the Hedgehog, another game with a short campaign that you're expected to replay to the point of annoyance. In fact, Shadow takes more runs to get to the true ending than Godzilla does. The difference is that Shadow the Hedgehog is an action platformer with unique and distinct levels, with different platforming setups, objectives, puzzles, weapons, and enemies. Plus, it has an actual story playing out with branching endings. The campaign is legitimately different every time that you play it, and there's a lot of engaging content. In other words, Shadow is an actual game, not this one-level endlessly cloned horseshit! Once you unlock the ending, Military Lady reveals that they have a plan to defeat Godzilla, a huge man-made kaiju built to fight its Super Mecha Godzilla. I already fought him in the invade mode. And because you went out of your way to pose for photo ops and paparazzi, they have enough data to program it so it can fight. Level 8, you fight a monster in a ship, the Atragon, which is a royal bitch to hit and can't even kill you on its own, and then you fight Super Mecha Godzilla. This guy almost never flinches and has a shitload of ranged attacks. There's basically no way to fight him but backing away and coughing on him. The fight takes ages and it's tedious as all hell, but it still isn't difficult. This doesn't take much skill, just patience. And what happens when you finally get the ending? The military lady says Godzilla wrecked the generators to save the environment, the Prime Minister tells her to shut up, and we're told Godzilla is returning to the sea while Godzilla stands there staring. So the ending is basically text. What a load! So the ending is crappy text. Good, we done. That's not the real ending. There's another ending past the unlocked ending, and I don't think that the game ever tells you how to get it. To get the game's true for real's ultimate final ending, you have to unlock the data collection ending and then play the campaign again and finish with a height of 100 meters or taller. To do this, you pretty much have to smash every single building, step on every single truck and tank, and smash as many helicopters and planes as you can manage in every single level. So take a game that was already boring as piss and stretch it out to about twice its normal length. You are forced to slowly and painfully drag yourself across every single square foot of each map while even more nothing happens than before. You beat the level like normal, and then you wander around a vacant lot that's already cleared of its non-existent hazards for 5 minutes. It's just padding the campaign out with dead air. They really didn't have any ideas for this game. My first crack at 100 meters, I decided to go for all of the quote-unquote hard levels because it seemed like common sense to jack up the disaster level and spawn more enemies. This plan almost worked until I got forced into a water level that had no buildings to smash to gain height. I ended up 3 meters short and basically got screwed out of the ending. Now I have to play this shit again. The 2 water levels have you blow up submarines instead of generators, and the military lady on the phone still says that Godzilla is approaching generators. They didn't record alternate voice lines for when you're playing as other monsters, but they were so cheap they couldn't record 2 sentences? Or hell, 1 additional word! Godzilla is approaching the submarine. The submarine is losing power. Come on! The only good thing about this hour and a half of wasted time is that you have to beat the hard levels to unlock Kiryu. It ain't much consolation. So while I was going for the 100-meter ending, I discovered a key aspect of the combat that I'd been missing up till now. You know that area effect roaring attack that every monster has? Yeah, it turns out that attack actually renders you invincible while it's fired, and it's the one move in your arsenal that doesn't have a delay to it. So the large portion of monsters who spam stunlock combos that you can't escape, you use this instant knockback and counter move to escape them. This is literally your only defense against several of the game's more broken monsters, and the game never explains how it works. And no, mastering the art of the automatic counter to everything button does not make the combat suck less. It just makes the combat playable until the next 100-meter monster spawns to wreck your shit because the game hates you. So on my 5th playthrough of the campaign, I pick levels judging by which preview image looks like a bigger city. I get to 100 meters with 2 levels to spare, and I finally get to the real ending. Godzilla turns into Burning Godzilla, where he's absorbed so much radiation that he's about to literally burst, incinerating Earth's atmosphere and destroying the entire planet. The Japanese military brings out ice missiles they hope will freeze Godzilla, while a mystery final boss trots out. Okay, now I'm curious who it could be. I still haven't run into Jaguar or Destroya, and I need both of them for upgrade parts, plus Destroya is famously the monster that fought Burning Godzilla in the main film series, and the mystery boss is... Legendary Godzilla? The Godzilla from a 2014 reboot movie? So the game ends with Godzilla fighting himself. I know that fans meticulously keep track of all the different Godzillas, but I don't think there's ever been more than one at a time in a single continuity. Plus, I fought Legendary Godzilla in the other gameplay modes. This isn't even a reward or bonus boss, he's just... there! At least it's vastly more dignified than the last time Godzilla fought his American counterpart, where the American version got renamed, mocked, shit-stomped, and killed in mere seconds. In the game's true ending, the Japanese freeze Godzilla with CG that looks appalling, they dump him in the ocean to sleep off his food coma, and Japan rebuilds. The end. Finally finished. Godzilla PS4 is just wretched. It's got next to no actual gameplay. All you do in this game is walk over buildings and shitty combat. From the shockingly small amount of content to every element of the gameplay being catastrophically unbalanced and half-assed, this is one of the most shockingly lazy AAA games that I've ever seen. But you know what the really sad thing is? A not inconsiderable portion of Godzilla fans really like this game, and I don't know how that's possible. Most rational people agree that the best Godzilla games are the Pipeworks trilogy, Destroy All Monsters Melee, Godzilla Save the Earth, and, to a lesser extent, Godzilla Unleashed. Except several Godzilla fans actually don't like those games because the physics of the monsters are off. The monsters run at a decent speed to improve the action, and the monsters can moon jump to keep combat balanced against flyers. Those displeased fans really like Godzilla PS4 because they feel the awful controls and focus on city destruction make it a good Godzilla simulator. No offense, but I'm beginning to think the Godzilla fandom just has astoundingly low standards. Licensed games should be true to the source material, but you make concessions when necessary because making a good game takes priority. That's why Batman doesn't run out of gadgets. That's why lightsabers are never one-shot kills. That's why the Joker can fight Doomsday on equal ground. You don't make a Godzilla game where you're slow as crap, none of the enemies are a threat, and the monsters are wildly unbalanced just because it's true to the text. You may make a faithful adaptation, but you make a horrible product. But hell, someone gets their money's worth out of this crap. You people can have it as far as I care. There, got the 100% ending. Now we done. I haven't tried the other monsters. Not done until I've tried all the content. In these reviews, I pride myself on covering as absolutely much of a game as I can. And I can't say I've covered all of Godzilla unless I've tried all the monsters, can I? I'm going to play these monsters in King of Kaiju because there's no level select option, and trying them all in the campaign would take several more hours than I'm willing to pump into this pig vomit. Rodan, Larva Mothra, and Super Mecha Godzilla are completely useless. Super Mecha Godzilla's ranged attacks from his boss battles have all been removed, leaving him with nothing but crazy slow attacks that everyone can outpace. Rodan has no range, his combos are weak, and he flinches to most hits. If Rodan has a playstyle that doesn't involve getting shit stomped, I can't fathom what it is. Larva Mothra has odd job syndrome going on where some monsters can barely hit her, but apart from that it seems like she can barely do anything. Space Godzilla, the Mecha Godzillas, and Kiryu feel average with Vanilla Godzilla. Classic and Burning Godzilla are literally moveset clones. Gigan actually has a pretty fun playstyle of keeping enemies at a medium range where he dominates, but it's wasted on this unfocused game that can't decide what it wants to be. Batra has powerful stun-lock combos, but it seems like he can't do shit outside of point-blank range. Several of the monsters just feel overpowered. Ghidorah and Larva Batra have great movesets of fast moves with good range that near-constantly stagger enemies. Legendary Godzilla recovers energy every time he's damaged, so you can just spam his invincible knockback attack. And Anguirus has a fairly fast charging attack to where he's completely immune to damage, and there ain't nothing stopping you from spamming that invincible attack over and over again. But perched at the very top of Mount Bullshit are the Ghidorahs, who are strong and fast at everything and have a great block and great range, Mothra, whose basic attacks are all charging stun-lock combos, and my personal candidate for the most broken character, Biollante. Biollante's moves are fast, stagger enemies, and all have ridiculously huge range that no monster can match. I just mash buttons, and she murders everything in sight with no hope of enemies closing the gap. She's friggin' broken. I did eventually find Jet Jaguar. He only appears if you beat the first level of the campaign with a destruction rate of 50 to 59%. So a playable character and several upgrades are hidden behind a stupid-ass Easter egg. People have told me that Jaguar is supposed to be one of the more powerful characters, but his attacks are so slow and have such weird leaping movements that I can barely land any hits with him. I think he's supposed to leap behind enemies and wail on them while they take hours to turn around, but I just don't know how he works. Most of the monsters have alternate moves instead of grabbing attacks, like the Mecha Godzillas can fire missiles, but the input for these moves still barely works. Even more bizarre, you know how Ghidorah has a really strong aerial attack? Well, several monsters like Ghidorah and Space Godzilla can fly, but they have zero attacks they can use when flying. Flying doesn't even make them faster, so why let them fly in the first place? This game has to have been rushed like hell, either because Namco Bandai was losing the license or to launch with the 2014 reboot. The dev team publicly admitted that they were desperate for monsters to add. Several monsters noticeably recycle combat animations. Several of the monsters feel like they have incomplete movesets, and there was no multiplayer at launch. Fans had to demand it to be patched in later. I was going to say I didn't think the game was designed with monster battles in mind at all, but there's so little else here that they wouldn't have had a game without them. The balancing may be less skewed if both monsters are fully leveled up for more energy attacks, but it takes hours of obnoxiously boring grind to max out one monster, let alone all 21 of the bastards. Bottom line, the combat's broken, and the game is still bullshit. There, tried all the monsters. Half them suck, other half are broken. Now, we done! But I don't have Destroya. Destroya only spawns in the campaign at pure random, and he always appears at 100 meters tall. His attacks are stun-lock combos that go on for so long that you can't block them, and with the height advantage, he shrugs off all your hits and curb stomps you. If you lose to him once, he disappears, and then you have to aimlessly troll around for hours just hoping that he shows up again. I ran into him once when I was test driving Kiryu, and that was it. But there is a way to get an even fight with Destroya so that you can unlock him. You have to beat the campaign as Burning Godzilla and get the 100-meter ending. So all I have to do to see what's left in the game is play the campaign one more time. Stupid freaking waste of space, overpriced asset flip city garbage, such a pathetic piece of shit. This game's music is terrible. It just drones on in the background. It has no melody to it. What is the actual point of the force fields around the generators? They don't hurt you, they just waste a few seconds of your damn time like everything else in this garbage fire. Oh, damn, of course Anguirus is 100 meters tall. Of course the game's going out of its way to waste as much of my time as possible. God damn it! Alright, you son of a bitch, you're gonna root through your next bowel movement picking out your own teeth! There, I get to fight Destroya. He's a broken piece of shit because he's got a ton of long attack combos and everything Godzilla does is too slow to go toe-to-toe with him. I beat him, I unlock him. Destroya's a broken piece of shit because he's got a ton of long attack combos that are tough to break out of, plus a devastating counter move. But he's got a lag to his attacks that a few monsters can exploit. Still say Biollante is the most broken character in the game. There! Done! Game's over! Goodbye, good day, see you in hell, you overpriced, unfocused, broken-ass, miserable shit-heap video game! Fuck you too!